Well, you can't even satisfy 5 women as one man. I'm 42, my libido's through the roof. I'm enough for 10 women. So you can't possibly be in my house in multiple houses.
Every year I get older, I'm like, what am I gonna do?
What is going on?
I have to have every day, and I can't.
We gotta get married.
Oh
we
my God,
gotta
I
find a
know,
husband so we can just
husband.
take him down every morning, every night, even.
She sees men for nothing more than a tool, and at this juncture, you gotta just feel bad for her.
I've talked about this a couple times on different platforms, but if you don't know, I don't have any children. I have 13 nieces and nephews and a 14th on the way.
Dang.
So I have a massive family. I have 6 brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And I love kids, but I don't plan on having any children of my own. No, I do not want to be your baby mother. And no, I am not going to have your child. And no, I didn't come to this decision lightly. I actually don't even think it was a decision that I made. I've just never wanted to be a mother. I've never wanted to be pregnant. And that's it. I don't really have any other great grand explanation for you. However, I do find our society's obsession with children to be very weird.
Very weird.
Currently,
You just said that you love kids, baby girl. Like, I just, doesn't she just sound like a ray of sunshine? No, I don't want to be your baby mama. No, I don't. Like, it's just like, you could tell that this particular subject really stings, right? What you often find is mindsets like this will back into not wanting a kid after failed relationship after failed relationship. Nevertheless, let's hear her thoughts.
as we are inching closer and closer to Gilead, those of you that watch A Handmaid's Tale know what I'm talking about, and that's horrifying. Another thing has come across the news cycle today. The New York Times had an article about the White House, and they want a baby boom. Now, this at the surface could seem like a good thing, right? They're kind of packaging it as they want to encourage the American family. They want to encourage women to have more children. They want families, not just babies.
Sure.
But really what they want is a working class. They're running low on the working class bodies. That's what this is about. It's not even actually about religion or pro-life or any of these things. It's really just they are running out of people to do jobs for them. And so they're packaging it as they want families. Now,
I agree with her that the government will send out messages incentivizing the public to act in a certain way. Meanwhile, there's an underlying reason for them doing so. But having an active, thriving working class or just a population in general is one of the major issues that we're facing as a country. We have some of the lowest marriage rates, birth rates that we've ever seen. And in recent years, we've had some of the highest baby self-delete rates ever. To visualize this, here goes a graph demonstrating live births per 1,000 people, all the way from the baby boom generation all the way up to Gen A. And these baby self-delete numbers are absolutely insane, especially for Black women. Black women had the highest A rate, 24.4 A's per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44 years, and a ratio of 429 A's per 1,000 live births. That's like damn near 50%. Half of all Black women that conceive terminate. Whoo! So while you can speak ill of the government's message and their underlying message within that, we cannot argue that a population or a country is not strong or correlated to the amount of people that are in that country. She's framing this very negatively, but I think that she's doing this to a degree as a cope to back into why she's still 38, no kids, and single.
it sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but I'm actually not. And I feel very, very passionately about this, and I've talked about this many times. If you want to have a child, have a child. I love it for you, and you should do that. But if we're going to talk about why people aren't having children and why women are not having children specifically and why women are not getting married and why women are not wanting to procreate with today's men, let's not just boil it down to feminism, okay? Please don't bore me with the ease of that explanation, all right? I'm not out here encouraging anyone to not have children just because I don't. In fact, I think it is a huge mistake if you want to have a child to be with someone who doesn't want to have a child, which is why I've broken up relationships that I've had before, because I know they want to have children and I do not, and nothing that they're going to say or do is going to convince me of that. And I think it would be a travesty if someone wants to be a parent to not do that just because I don't want a child.
Although you want to explain away feminism, generally modern day feminists do not like men and they spread messages of hate towards men, usually unchecked. Now, if your position is that the modern day woman doesn't want to procreate with these men, then why are they still having sex? with them. I mean, just take a look at the A rates alone. Instead of being sexually liberated in all of their modern day feminism with a low-key barometer of hating men, not of reforming strong bonds with men, or even wanting to understand men or have empathy for men, they are instead just utilizing them as walking ATMs or dildos that can pump themselves. I think feminism, specifically modern day feminism, injects a lot of hatred in regards to men. If you would get off your neurotic high horse for a second and look at real situations around you, I bet you can come up to the same conclusion as well.
I think it's important. I think that that is a goal in life that you should try to achieve if it matters to you. That being said, let's just talk about what it is they're actually doing here. Because Trump, Vance, and Musk, three people who I don't want any advice about family from, have cultivated this movement because of the declining birth rates.
Okay.
And they want to persuade women to have children. Okay. Well, one of the reasons,
they're persuading families. That's a little bit different.
One of the reasons that women are not having children the way they were before is because, let's say, like, I don't know, 50 years ago, I existed, right? And I don't want kids, and I want to be a businesswoman and live my life and travel the world. Well, unfortunately, I need a husband to get me a credit card. He has to sign off on the credit card.
Yeah.
And at one point, I needed a husband so that I could buy a house. So I needed a man to even be considered a person, to even be a citizen in this country. That doesn't exist anymore. So now I have the autonomy, thank God, actually thank feminism, that I can live and exist without having to be attached to a man and live the life that I want to live, which is why I'm very happy. Well, years ago, that wouldn't have been an option for me. I would have had to have a man. I would have had to have children. And I probably would have been a bad mother and probably a bad wife. And I'd have to figure it out because that's the options that are available to me. This whole trad wife movement,
crazy.
like, you know, we hate women who are trad wives. No, I don't. I think it's brilliant. I think if that is what you want to be, and you want to be a stay-home mom, and you want to make children, that is exactly what the fuck you should do. This whole thing is about women having options. So let's talk about the women who want to have children, people who would like to have big families. Well, that's pretty pricey, guys. When you're running up tariffs and the cost of eggs are $45, what do you expect people to do with the process of feeding, housing, clothing, educating their children?
Someone hurt this poor young lady so badly. And, you know, it gets to a point where I go over content like this and, you know, we can poke fun. We can talk about the things that they're talking about. But there's another point where you begin to start to feel bad for them. She just seems so unhappy. Now, this is a young woman who allegedly utilized equal opportunity within the workplace to F her way up to the top and now copes herself into being a modern woman boss bee that don't want kids because these men are not worthy, or 50 years ago I would have gotten married and been a terrible wife. Like, this is just so negative. She's so steeped in her trauma and unhappiness and her negative relationship with men. It makes me think all of the allegations are true. She sees men for nothing more than a tool, and at this junction, you gotta just feel bad for her.
It's pretty expensive. Let's see. They do numbers on this. In 2024, Massachusetts, the most expensive state, it costs $36,000 a year to raise a child. Do you have that laying around?
Why would you use the most expensive? They skew the data right in your face now. They don't give a shit. Why would you use the most expensive one to give us the one example? Jeez.
18 years, it's going to cost you $650,000. Now, I know how everyone's like, well, just don't live in Massachusetts. Some people can't help where they're born and where they grow up. I love that. I love that idea. I left Pittsburgh because I had the resources to leave Pittsburgh. I know people in Pittsburgh now who do not have the resources to move somewhere else in case Pittsburgh became extremely expensive. So that's not how these things work. Things cost money. Children cost money. Of course, if you plan on keeping them alive, which is something else that we don't give a about in this country.
What?
Because let's talk about the number one killer of children in this country. Guns. Guns are the number one killer of children in this country.
Actually, no. We've gone over the number one killer. Pointing out that guns are the absolute killer of children is completely insane, and again, points out how absolutely delusional and ridiculous this young lady is. I found this data from Johns Hopkins University that there were, in 2022, 2,500 firearm-related, that word, averaging to 7 per day, which is absolutely insane, but not nearly as insane as this number that in the USA, 15 to 25 A's happen per day. The contradiction of being pro-family while calling out gun violence while also ignoring the amount of A's that are happening baffles me.
Not a disease, not gum disease, not measles, not raw milk, not the color 5 in the food, none of that. The number one killer of children in this country is gun violence, something that is 100% preventable. So you are telling me, and don't get into me with 100% preventable. I've been to other countries. You clearly have it. Other places around the world do not have gun violence. Their children do not have any anxiety about going to school with bulletproof backpacks because it is not a thing that happens there. And I'm not anti-gun. I'm actually very pro-gun. But the reason I'm pro-gun is because we're never going to do a goddamn thing about gun violence in this country. And we certainly don't give a if the babies are slaughtered at school. You know how I know that?
She's
exhausted. Babies get killed at school and we don't do shit about it. So you can't sit here and tell me that you guys are pro-family. All of this is really about making a working class. And the way that this whole thing is being packaged is that it's partly religious, which it is, but it's mostly about creating a family structure and helping women to get away from the idea that they need to work. And
no wonder nobody wants you. Holy moly.
They really need to raise families. Listen,
Shit.
If you want to stay home and raise your children, I think that's exactly what you should do. And I think it would be amazing if we in this country right now had the economic stability for one parent to make enough money so that the other parent could stay home and raise their children, and that childcare prices weren't so fucking expensive that they didn't have that option. They take options off the table for people and then blame women for why they're not making babies. We're not making babies because we don't fucking want to and never have.
Oh my God.
Any version of society that I, Joy Taylor, existed, I would not want to have children. There are plenty of women like me. It's not our fault
and never
that
have.
Raising a child costs thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and then you send them off to school never knowing if they're going to come home because they could get their head shot off by somebody who has a gun and doesn't have any access to mental health, because we don't give a fuck about that either. So look, I'm all about families. I've always said there's no way on earth I would ever have a man's child who I wasn't married to. I think family is so important. I think parenting is important. And I think the future of society, AKA children, should be protected and are very important. But pick a flex, guys. All right, Musk, Vance, Trump. You care about the future of women? You want women to have babies? Cool.
Again, I couldn't imagine sitting across the table from her, listening to her spout off her shit, right? Everything's negative, doom and gloom. You know, these are people that just do nothing but consume content from media that is trying to weaponize things that are happening in order to control them with fear. Fear-mongering is one of the oldest tricks in the book to mass control a population. And it seems that she's bit into it hook, line, and stinker. You know, what's actually funny about this is that, I want to say this is like 10 or so years ago. I don't know why this just popped into my mind. I was on a date with a young lady, and first date, actually. And we were talking about, you know, like our futures and things that we were going to be doing. And, you know, she asked me would I ever consider having kids. And then, you know, I said, yeah, like one day, you know, I can see it for myself. Not now. I'm a Rolling Stone right now, baby. And then I asked her, and then the talking points that she was saying was in the same veins of a Joy Taylor. It was, I will never bring a child into this world, doom and gloom, gun violence. Why would all these diseases, all this crime, all this. And I'm just like, wait, hold up. What are you talking about? We are in the safest, from a crime statistics perspective, we are in the safest country than we've ever been within our lives. We have some of the lowest rates of poverty as compared to our past. We're not in active fights of wars, right? There's not even well, I guess to a degree, there's Cold Wars that are kind of happening, but not to the degree of what it was. But we're not in active war, right? Like, I can get it if someone says, you know, I don't want to bring someone in this world, and like we're going through an active war situation, but it's just like the softening of the society. Everyone's a victim. Nobody has it good. And there's people out here that are absolutely thriving. I would suggest that you guys do not pay attention to the doom and gloom content within the internet and absorb content that you can continue to hone in on your skills, develop your talents, and just do better with yourself. No wonder the prescription rates for SSRIs, antidepressants are through the roof. It's because people are consuming negative ass content like this from people that they consider their leaders or influencers. Anyway, I'm going to stop the content right here. Guys, let me know what you think about this piece of content down in the comment box down below. Let's have a fruitful conversation, and I will see you guys soon. Last but not least, men's self-development community. Link to it in the description box down below. Click down, beam up, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Until next time, YouTube. Peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.